Hey YouTube, it's me, Jen, your pudgy picker.
And Kim.
And we're here again for another podcast. Two sisters.
One booth a roadie.
And
why can't I ever just say booth?
I don't know.
It doesn't want to come out. I have to say something.
You have to entertain us.
Myself.
Now, I
entertain
think
myself.
Are we 37 or 38 now? I'm confused.
Might be 38, I think.
Yeah. Okay, well, on my notes it says 37. Whatever. If you're not sure, look at the title. I will have figured it out by then.
Please look above.
So this is going to be part one of 2 parts of us talking about pros and cons of sourcing.
Yep. So get your popcorn bucket.
Yep.
In your large Slurpee, and here we go.
So there's different places that we can source. This week we're going to be talking about auctions and thrift stores. And then next week we'll talk about sourcing pros and cons for garage sales and estate sales, which may sound the same, but they have different.
They're a little different.
Yeah, a little different.
Yep.
So I thought we'd do it this way with the pros and cons, that we'll just talk about it. And then, you know, any ideas we have, we can kind of go between the two of us. You know, every place you source from has pros and cons, and depending on what it is. For auctions, so some of the pros for going to auctions is you can buy things right on the spot.
Yep. So
you don't have to wait. Doesn't... you know, you can get a lot of stuff at one place, which is really nice.
Yeah.
So you can get a lot of stuff really cheap, or you can get a lot of things for a pretty cheap price.
Yes. So
that's also a pro. Another thing is it can be fun.
And we always have fun.
Yeah. So
we just have to be careful.
Yes, go ahead and see if I'm thinking of what you're going to say.
I don't know, you have to be careful, like when you have a clicky pen. We remember the clicky pens?
Oh, the clicky pens.
They had been giving out these little clicky pens that had a little light on the end of them, or the click for the ink pen, and it had the business name on them. And I was, you know, how you just sit and do something without thinking about it, and so I had my hand on the edge of the chair, and I'm just clicking along, and the auctioneer stopped right a minute. You blinked that in my face one more time, and I'm gonna. Whoops! He was joking. He laughed about it after, but I mean, when you're not paying attention to what you're doing.
Yeah,
which is what you have to do at an auction, because you can get yourself in trouble.
You know, we're talking about pros, that it can be entertaining, but the con is if there's 2 of you, like sometimes we get yapping, we'll miss stuff.
Oh.
So it's fun to have somebody go and, you know, have that fun, but you got to pay attention too. So
yeah, I've missed a lot of things talking to you.
Not my fault. Let's see. So, like we said, it's you can find a lot of them too. If you go on auctionzip.com, you can type in your zip code and put in a radius of 50 miles or more and be able to see what's in your area. Or I put in, you know, I'll put in Kim's zip code, and then I can see what's closest to her. So there are a lot of options, and I know it with auctionzip.com, it brings up a calendar, and there's physical auctions as well as online auctions. So it's kind of a nice mix and variety of items and locations. So that's the good thing about it, is you can find a lot of them, and depending on where you live, of course, you know, we're in the burbs, so there's always a lot around.
Yeah.
Let's see.
No, never mind.
The other thing is you can get a lot of furniture or large pieces of items really cheap.
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah, because sometimes they'll literally have a gorgeous wood china cabinet, and it goes for like $30.
Yeah, one of the ones that we go to, they have a few people that come out for furniture, and that's all they buy. But a lot of them won't pay but a few dollars for an item. So if it's something you really want, you can still really get it dirt cheap, because they're usually not willing to pay more than, say, $40, $45 for like a 10-piece dining room set, you know?
Yeah, it's crazy. Some of the prices, we'll just look at each other and shake our head and go, wow.
Oh, man.
So, you know, so those are pros to going to auctions. Now, of course, there's always cons. So talking about the furniture or the larger pieces that you can get real cheap, the con might be that you maybe don't have a way to get that stuff home.
It's like, how many times is like $5, $5, $5, and I'm like, $3, flip, and you get it for $3, and you're like, yes, I got that. Oh, crap, how am I going to get that thing home?
Yeah, and most auction houses will make, say, if you can't take it tonight, you know, you have to take it within a certain amount of time or within certain hours.
Yep.
So be aware of that. And sometimes when you go to an auction, I mean, some people, like you said, who get the furniture, they'll bring a huge truck and they end up not buying anything.
Yep.
So you don't always know if you're going to buy something big or not. It just kind of works out that way.
Well, what did I buy the last time I went that I didn't plan on buying? I had to come back and get it. I bought that cabinet to put down in my basement bathroom, and a sink, and a
well, sometimes if you see something you want and you know you have room for it, and they're not getting a bid on it, so they'll throw something else big, and you're like, oh, great. And with the one in particular we go to, I know some people say, well, if I didn't want it, I'd just leave it. You can't. You can't just leave it at this place.
You have to take it.
So some places, you know, will say, yeah, just leave it.
Well, for a little while, we had a guy and his mom or somebody that would show up, and they would buy the...
They had like a little shop or something.
Must have, but they had a shop, well, they had the tables, whatever didn't sell on the tables, they would sell the whole lot of the table.
For like $1, $2, $3, for like the whole, everything on the table.
So there was once or twice that I ended up getting, doing that, but then I knew where they were, and so I said, hey, you want this? Hey, do you want that? And they were like, sure.
Yeah. So. Or there's been a couple times where I didn't realize that there was an item I wanted, and I'll say, hey, can I give you $5 for that? And if they paid $3 for the whole thing, they're happy. They made some money already. Yep. So, you know, if you, like you said, it's one of those things you got to get to know the people there and then say, hey, you want this? And you could usually unload it pretty quick. One con that I don't think really applies to me or you, because we're very tight with our money, is some people can get really caught up in the bidding and end up spending way more than they thought. Yeah. Now, if you're buying something for yourself, if you go up an extra $5, $10, it may not be that big of a deal. But if you're buying things to sell, you know, if you go up just that little bit, that's that could be all of your profit.
Yeah.
So some people, depending on your personality, you know, if you get caught up in something and you're all excited and you just keep raising your hand and, you know, then maybe auctions aren't the best idea for you. Or just really set aside and pay attention and say, I will not pay more than this amount of money.
That's what I do on the back of my card. I go around and mark down what it is I'm interested in. I even draw little diagrams of all the tables. Yeah. So I know which ones I want to go back to and mark what it is. And I will mark next to the item what my maximum bid is. So I don't, because I have a very short memory, and numbers and names don't stick with me. Yeah. So I've gotten a couple of dollars ahead of myself a few times. So this way, if you've got it wrote down and you're looking at it, every time I lift that number up, I could see the number on the back. Yeah. You can stay within range a little better.
And if you are going to the same auction, or you know the auctioneer, you've seen him in action before, then you kind of get their rhythm and you understand how they're doing that. Because some, you know, auctioneers will do the going, gone, and others just say, you know, this bid, okay, slam, sold. So, you know, you can, you know, the con is, unless you really know, you know, how that auctioneer operates, you may end up overpaying or getting completely left out, or you thought you had another minute and you didn't. Yeah. So that is something, getting to know the auctioneer and his style, because they're all different.
Oh, definitely.
So that's definitely something that would help you. I know we don't always have that option if you go somewhere that you know who the auctioneer is or you've been to their auctions before. But like the one particular that we go to, it's every week. So you know how things are done, you know the order and how things are done, and that is a great advantage. The other thing is, depending on how much time you have for viewing the item, the preview. The particular one we go to, the doors open at 5, the auction starts at 6. So you have 1 hour to look over anything, do your research, do whatever you got to do to make that decision on what your max bid is going to be. And that may not be enough time to do enough research or to really look over items and make sure something doesn't have damage, because everything is sold as is, where is, and if you win it and it's got a chip in it, too bad.
And I've done that. I have a piece right now that was out for a long time. I couldn't sell. I brought it back home for a while, and it was a glass piece. So it's worth a lot of money, but after I got it home, there was a chip in it. Yep. So it wasn't worth as much money as I thought it was going to be worth.
Yeah, so, especially the items, if you're going to buy a box lot or a small item for, $5, $6, that may not be it's not that big of a gamble. But if you're getting something large or something that you think, that the price just could really fluctuate with quality, or a chip or a small amount of damage can make that value just go down the toilet.
Yeah, with a piece of Murano glass.
Yeah, so you really have to pay attention. And an hour...
It's so easy to miss something.
Yeah, because,
you got to take time.
The auction that we go to does pictures. But it's like anything else. You can look and say, wow, that looks great. But you really have to pick up the item, look at it, turn it, really inspect it, because everything is, they say, per your inspection. There's no guaranteed expressed or implied. So everything is as is, where is. So if you get something and there's an issue with it, or it doesn't work or whatever, too bad. So... that can be a con, because you have that finite amount of time to look, research, make a decision, and then get to the auction. And there's a lot of stuff there every week. So if you're looking up more than 3 or 4 things and trying to look everything over, that's a lot. I mean, some places have a preview the day before or a couple of hours before. So, make sure that if you go to Auction Zip and you look at that, check the preview time, because if you just walk in right when they start, you're really doing yourself a disservice.
Yep. You end up overpaying for stuff.
Yep. And it's funny too, because sometimes I've bid and got something pretty low, and I was like, wow, that's great. Well, the reason is it has a huge chip in it or has a crack in it, and everyone noticed it but me.
Yep.
So, those are mistakes we all make. The other thing is, there's a few auctions that we've gone to that are like once a month. And literally, it's 5 to 6 hours. So that can make for an extremely long ordeal to sit through.
Especially for us, because, in those cases, like that one, they've done farm equipment, automobiles, a lot of antique vintage furniture that always goes for big bucks at that one.
They have very high standards, and the quality is crazy good. So
the smaller stuff that we really gravitate towards was always last there. So you had to wait. One night we didn't get home till like 1 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
After all of that.
And you're sitting there yawning, and your eyes are itchy, and you're like falling asleep, and your butt's going numb, and you're like...
And had a 45-minute drive home.
Yeah, it's like, what am I doing here? Yeah. So you kind of have to take that into consideration as well. Let's see. So that could be a long evening. Depending on where you live, that's a good... that's close to an hour from me.
Yeah. And it's like 45 minutes
Yeah, a good 45 minutes for her. So... if you find an auction and you don't live in an area that has a lot of them, that may be a bit of a drive. And if you go out there and you end up getting nothing, that can be frustrating. And you think, man, holy cow, I wasted a whole evening and I didn't even get anything. Yeah. So that can be a con as well. It's not like a store where you go in and pick something up. You're not guaranteed to get anything. Or you may get a whole lot more than you thought you were going to get.
No, we've never done that, have we?
So that's the point. That is, you don't know. It's very difficult to kind of judge as to how much you're going to get. and what size things are going to be. I have my little metal fold-out cart. I always bring that because we tend to get a lot of smaller items, ephemera, a lot of small glassware, home deck kind of stuff. And that's nice just to pack it up, throw it in there, and I can just wheel it out to the car.
You and your adult diapers that you wrap them in.
Yeah, I did have those for a while. I got to buy some more. They're so cheap at the thrift stores. And we talked also about getting larger items home. So that can be a challenge. So that's pretty much just the basics of pros and cons for auctions. Do you have anything else to offer on that?
I think I chimed in.
Are we ready to move on?
Let's move on.
So, thrift stores. Who doesn't love a good thrift store? Like anything else, we got pros and cons for those as well. The pros are you can go in any day of the week.
All day long.
Yeah, all day long, and you can almost always find something to buy. A lot of places, if you go to regularly, they either have a mailing list or an email list or regular sale days, like the Savers I go to. Every Monday's half off. Or they have coupons or punch cards. That's the only thing I don't like about when I travel and go to thrift stores, because they're like, oh, we have huge sales on this certain day. I'm like, I'm from out of town. I'm not going to be here for that.
I'm not flying all the way back down to Florida.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you live in that area and you manage to, to be able to get in on sales, or if you donate stuff, they have punch cards or coupons or whatever. So if you are aware of those things, that you can get a really good deal. They also have a wide variety of items. Unlike maybe an auction or even a garage sale. I mean, you can go in and find anything.
You have departments.
Yeah,
there.
It is like a department store. You can go in and say, well, this is the particular items I like looking at, or just start at one end and go to the other.
I do that.
Yeah.
One end to the other.
If I shop more than like 2 times at a place, I have a set route. We've talked about this before. I go in, I look here, I turn, I go up and down here, then I go there. I mean, I just, that's the way I am.
This girl, she has like a computer brain processing with her vision as she goes through.
Yeah.
Me, it's like I see something and it takes 5 minutes for it to circle around my brain 5 times.
You're like a squirrel. You're like, oh, something, or a crow. Look, something shiny.
It's like I'm looking, oh, it's blue and it's got, and it takes me forever to look through things.
Yeah. So, I mean, I have a certain way that I tackle things, and I don't know. That's just the way my brain works. So we said a wide variety of items. You can almost always find something at the thrift store. I mean, rarely do I ever go in and come out with nothing.
Yeah.
I come out with at least something. So that's nice in knowing that if you're sourcing there, you're probably going to find something. You're not going to leave empty-handed. Most thrift stores, of course not all thrift stores, are well organized. So when you go in, like we said, you have departments. If you've shopped there more than a couple times, you kind of know where things are. You know where shoes are and handbags and all those things. So when you go in, you kind of already have in your mind how you're going to tackle it. Or if you're looking for a particular item, you know where to look. So having it organized like a department store is definitely a bonus. So, cons. What are the cons for thrift stores?
Pricing.
Depending on the thrift store, you can almost guarantee that even the best priced thrift store is going to be more expensive than a garage sale.
Oh, yes. Definitely.
So, yeah. So, that's, there is a drawback of the pricing. If you don't have, like, a Savers like we have where they have the 50% off, I rarely go any other day of the week. If I happen to be in the area and I have a little time to kill, I will. But I just don't do it that much because I know the prices are probably going to be more than I want to pay. So, that is a drawback. Merchandise sometimes can be... Now, this depends on what thrift store you go to. Some are much better than others. Some merchandise can be stinky and dirty. So some can be worse than others. Some are, pretty good about that. I know where I go. There was a thrift store that they recently closed. They lost their lease, even though they were savers and they did well. But that place was a little bit scary.
Dicey.
Yeah. You kind of wanted to go home and boil yourself to get all the germs off. It was a little bit icky. But you could still find some really good stuff there.
Yeah.
So that is a drawback. And going along with that, too, is if you have something that's a little bit stinky or stained or dirty, or it has some type of issue or needs a repair, that's something you're going to have to tackle before you can sell it. That's going to take up your time, energy, and maybe extra money trying to fix that item up.
That means money.
Yeah, to get it to where you can sell it, or to where you can sell it and make more than, just a little amount on it. Also, there's a lot of stuff to look through. If you don't have a lot of time, that can be overwhelming to go in, and you literally have an entire department store. So, I don't know, I can kind of go in, and if I got at least 15, 20 minutes, I can make a good go of it. When I take my time each Monday when I go to Savers, I spend between 45 minutes to an hour at a thrift store. It could be a little longer if I happen to find, a certain amount of treasure trove type items, and then I keep digging. I can maybe find more. But that's a lot of stuff to look through. So unless you have the time, that can be a con as well. This is another big issue, and Kim and I have talked about this, and I know people comment all the time. Price tags can be very difficult to remove or damage the item.
Yep.
And if you have on an album, a book, anything that's, paper, if you tear that off, board games, I mean, it's going to totally kill.
The one thing that aggravates me the most is when I'm looking in clothing and they take and staple the tag instead of stapling it to like the
tag,
size tag, or name brand tag. They staple it right to the clothing, and then they break the threads, and then
especially if it's knit, there's a hole there. There ain't much you can do about that.
Everything, and it's like that takes away the value. Even if I wanted to buy it for myself, it still took away the value of it, because now you stretch it or whatever to put it on, you could get a run in the stupid thing. It's just
yeah. So that can be frustrating, and the sticky tags, they're meant to be difficult to take off so people don't switch them. Yeah. But in the meantime, even if you're removing it from glass, you can do it, but it still takes a lot more time.
I know you've had the same experience. You bought something was real pretty and you ran it under the water or whatever to get the dirty off of it, and all of the coloring and the paint and everything just fell right off of it.
Done that before.
And you have clear glass then.
Yeah. So, it's one of those things that if you buy something that's a little bit dirty or damaged, you risk, in your zest to make it nice and clean, that you're going to completely, totally ruin it. But the price tags can be such a pain. And the price tags Savers use are like 1.5 inches by like 2.5 inches.
Yeah.
They are big.
Yep.
So that definitely can be a problem. So I guess that's all we had to cover with the pros and cons of auctions and thrift stores. So next week, we will be talking about garage sales and estate sales, the pros and cons of sourcing at those places.
So get your snack goods ready for next time.
Yeah. So if you have anything to add, or you think we missed something, go ahead and leave a comment down below. You can also email me if you'd like with a question or comment. If you don't want to put it below, jen@pudgypicker.com. You can follow me on, I almost said Savers. I don't have that in yet. No, you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter under The Pudgy Picker. And be sure to subscribe and click that little bell, and you'll get notifications when I put a new video up.
Yep.
And I think that is all.
I think that is all.
So we will see you next week, or you'll hear us next week.
Yes, ma'am.
With another podcast. And until then,
okay,
we'll see you later. Bye.
Are they still open?